This podcast is not a source of legal advice. No two legal cases are the same. Contact an attorney if you require legal assistance. Welcome to the NJ Criminal Podcast, and part 3 in this series.
You also are part owner of the Garden State Canna Collective, which is a WBA, a women's business enterprise. Can you describe what that is?
Sure. So it's actually a cultivation site, and this license came from the 2019 round. So a lot of people kind of forget that round of licenses because it got stuck in COVID and
yeah, tell us about that. Tell us about that.
For years. So so the New Jersey cannabis industry really back in 2018 is where they took the licenses, and 6 big MSOs, well actually at that point it was 5 MSOs, 1 independent, all got those licenses. So they're the Curaleafs, the GTIs, what's now Air Wellness, Ascend, TerraScend, those big businesses. So they were up and running. They had a monopoly on the market. And then in 2019, there was issued another call for medical cannabis licenses, cultivation, also some retail. So the people that applied, of course, were waiting for a decision in what we thought would be a reasonable amount of time. But then we got hit with COVID, and then there was also a lawsuit about the scoring procedure. And so what happened is those licenses got held in limbo for about 2 years. And one of the requirements back then, too, was you had to maintain site control. That means that you had to either own your property or you were actively leasing it. So for 2 months, our group was paying, or 2 months, 2 years, our group was paying rent on the property because we had to own it to find out if we were going to get the license. If you didn't have the property, you would not get the license.
But these rounds of licenses, just to be clear, in 2018 and 2019, they're all medical marijuana licenses, correct? Okay.
Yes. Okay. Yeah. So the license that the Garden State Canna Collective got, that is a medical license, and it is a cultivation license for a 20,000 square foot canopy. So that's how big the facility is going to be. It was decided recently that once we can demonstrate that we're producing enough product for the medical market.
And hey, I'm just gonna interrupt you. Your audio is going in and out suddenly. I don't want to lose. This is really an important topic that you're talking about. I just want to make sure that we can hear you.
Oh, sorry about that.
There you go. So can you just repeat that again? The location is how large?
Okay. So this was a 2019 medical license award, and it is a 20,000 square foot canopy located in northern Jersey, and it is a medical license only. But recently, it was decided that if we can show that we're producing enough product for the medical market, that we can apply to be an adult use supplier as well.
Wow. Okay, that's amazing. And so where does all that stand? Where is it in the works?
Oh, right now it's in what's called the build out. So the build out is essentially you have to secure your real estate, and then you really start building from the ground up. So we are doing some building that includes solar panels. You also have to make sure that you have a very good HVAC system, because you can imagine that the smell can be a big issue, and you definitely have to take care of that, or your community is going to rightly complain. So you have to do special HVAC. You, of course, have to have a good water supply. You have to have a good electric grid. There's just a lot that goes into it. So a build out on a property will take anywhere from, if it's 9 months and maybe you just have to fix a few things, and you have a very good property that's close to ready to go, that's about as fast as you can do it. Otherwise, it's going to take about a year to 15 months to build from the ground up a compliant facility.
And so is Garden State Canna Collective going to also apply for one of the new licenses?
Eventually. We really want to get this up and going, and want to make sure that we have a good brand and a good foothold. And then from there, then we definitely will be looking at other opportunities as well. And also the state does have some regulations on what you can apply for at the moment. So for example, right now you can apply for a cultivation and a processing, but you can't apply for the other classes of license. But all that stuff is going to change pretty soon.
Right. And there'll be so much need for someone like you that is so knowledgeable about, just how we got to where we are from a social legal perspective. And that's why your classes are so important, because I think you're right. What do you think, in your estimation, the future holds? How long before those other classes of licenses will be available?
Actually, the New Jersey Cannabis Regulatory Commission said that they are working on guidelines for warehouse, distribution, and delivery licenses. So those are three brand new classes, three brand new businesses that have never existed in New Jersey. So talk about some potential for growth. It's very intriguing and exciting. So by August 1st, they'll have those rules outlined, and then there's a period of public comment. So they do have a chance to make a couple changes if they want. And then after that, they'll call for those licenses to be submitted and start awarding those.
We're going to be speaking to some other folks specifically about the licensing, process. But just generally speaking, I mean, is this a costly endeavor? I mean, is it doable for individuals that want to open up places in low impact areas or minority, business entrepreneurs?
That is a very difficult one, because it sort of depends on what type of license you're trying to get,
mm-hmm.
and how large it's going to be, where it's going to be located. The big obstacles are things like trying to find real estate. We've had so many municipalities that have opted out, and municipalities are king in New Jersey, so they can decide things like number of licenses they're going to allow, where they're located, times of operation, how far away they have to be from libraries, churches, nurseries, schools, swimming pools. So they can set up so many regulations that essentially you can stymie any business, or you can actually just say we're not going to allow it at all, which again, close to 70% of our municipalities have said that. So
Right.
trying to find a location can be extremely difficult. Not just that, if you're applying for a micro license, you have to be a resident of the town you're applying in or an adjoining township. So if your township touches three other townships and all four of those don't allow any cannabis business, you cannot apply for a micro license. So even though it's legal in New Jersey, not legal for you where you live.
Right. And
For you
that's
to
a whole
get a
nother
business.
issue in and of itself, right? Because it's circumventing the purpose of the legislation,
Exactly.
arguably.
Not just that. The municipalities also can set up rules like what their application fees can be. So there are some municipalities that are charging far more than the state, and the state has made a point of saying we want to have low application fees because we don't want that to stop, especially our micro licenses or our social equity applicants. But then you go to a municipality and they may well be charging you 5 times what the state is charging, and there's at least nothing at the moment, nothing you can do about it.
Right. And will the banks even loan someone money since it's not
Well,
legal under the
yeah,
federal laws?
yeah, then you're into cannabis banking, which primarily you have to find a state-based bank or a state-based credit union. Although there are a few places like Valley Bank that are working with cannabis businesses now, but the caveat is that the fees will be very high.
Right. A lot of hurdles, a lot of issues, and it's neat to be able to speak with you because you have such a good grasp of all of the issues and knowledge, from a historical perspective, and able to kind of anticipate the direction that each of those different issues and areas may go.
Yeah, well, clearly you can tell this is an area that I love and that I find it intriguing, and I love everything from the cultivation to the business parts of it to the legal challenges. So yeah, I am in such a good place.
Yeah. Any of our listeners want to hear you speak more? You've mentioned that you speak at different different things other than just your teaching at Stockton. How could someone who's listening learn more about what you're speaking about?
There's a couple ways. Probably the very best is I am pretty good about posting all my events up on LinkedIn,
Mm-hmm.
so that people can see where I'm speaking, what kind of panel it is, that sort of thing. So I would say if you link in with me, that's definitely one of the best ways. Also Twitter. And then a little bit on the website too. I mean, I will write about blogs. I would say easiest way is just follow me on LinkedIn.
Okay, fantastic. So, just to round out the conversation, I would really like to stay in touch with you and maybe even have you come back on I'm as I mentioned to you before we started recording, I'm going to be speaking to some other folks, about really some of the more specific areas that we touched upon today. But if it's okay with you, I'd like to have you come back, and certainly as the licensing process develops in New Jersey, I'm sure other issues will come up. We're, like I said, we're all kind of waiting to see what's going to happen with the Oleneski decision. But there's just a lot there, and you've been at the forefront of it. And what I think is so special is what you really described at the very beginning, how your interest in it developed from your own personal experience and your sister's experience.
I appreciate that. And I would be happy to show up at any point. I mean, I do think issues that will be coming up is you may want to have a conversation about edibles at some point, because New Jersey doesn't really have an edibles market now, but at some point we will have chocolates, brownies, and all sorts of things like that. So that actually might be a good topic of discussion. And then I'd love to see what happens with delivery, because delivery is actually an interesting case, because municipalities cannot stop delivery from coming to their town. So even if they say we don't want any licenses here, a township that does allow delivery, they'll be able to roll right up to your house, just like Amazon does, check your ID and get your product dropped off.
Wow, that's interesting.
I mean, you can imagine that would have an impact on certain places that really have said not in my backyard, but they can't entirely say that because you can order delivery.
Right. Well, that kind of reminds me of last summer. I was listening to a Major League Baseball game, and I heard advertisements for a delivery service. This was after it was legalized, but before the regulations were in place, and so that also raises a lot of issues about these places that are, you spend $100 on some snacks, and then you get a free flower along with it.
Oh yeah, the old gifting issue that has been alive and well in places like Washington D.C. They've lived on that model for a couple of years.
Right.
But now in D.C. you can actually you can self-diagnose and say you're a medical patient. You do not have to go to a doctor. You don't have to go to any medical provider. I could, if I was a resident of D.C., I could just say I am now a medical cannabis patient, and I can just get my card and walk right in. That's
interesting. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so self-certifying, that is the very first state. I mean, California, it is very easy to get your card. There are even places connected to a dispensary where you just walk in and say, I have anxiety or I have trouble sleeping, and boom, there's your card. So DC is going even one step further and just saying, you don't even have to talk to a medical provider. You can just self-certify.
That almost circumvents any need for legalization legislation.
It does. It does. It makes it. It really makes it adult use.
It does. It does in a roundabout way. It definitely does.
Well, if anything, if you're around the cannabis industry at all, you will find that people find ways around things in the most creative ways.
I was just going to say a lot of creativity.
You can look at something like Delta 8, where hemp farmers all of a sudden have a rival product to THC and are shipping across state lines. I mean, talk about a kind of a loophole and an opportunity people did not see coming.
Wow. I bet your classes fill up quick.
they do. The students are motivated to be there. They do want to learn. They know it's part of their world. So some come there just to become more educated, but there are definitely a lot that want to get into the business.
Yeah. What classes are you teaching this fall? What classes are you teaching this fall?
I am teaching the social justice in cannabis, and then I am teaching the preparation for cannabis internship class.
Okay, excellent.
Yeah,
Rob,
go ahead. And then we're doing a few public events too. So we have our 6th Cannabis Career Fair and Business Expo on November 1st. We also have quarterly panels that are free. We're probably going to be looking at the new regulations around September 1st. And then I can also tell you that we are looking at potentially holding a webinar on psychedelics, in part spurred on by Nicholas Scutari proposing a decriminalization bill on magic mushrooms or psilocybin.
Yeah, I just read an article about medical benefits to psychedelics for Alzheimer's patients.
There is so much research going on in that psychedelic area, pretty phenomenal, and high-powered schools like Johns Hopkins, Yale, UCLA, Pitt. I mean, just some amazing schools, Cornell.
Well, I'd love to actually attend attend the, what was it again, on November 1st? Can you state that again for our listeners and how they could, how they can sign up to go?
Sure. It is the Cannabis Career Fair and Business Expo. It's on November 1st. It will probably run from about 9 a.m. until 3 p.m. We have speakers, panels, areas to network. There'll be a bunch of vendors there. People are actually hiring. We have a headshot booth. So it's definitely a great event, and it'll be low-priced tickets, and a lot of people will be showing up.
And where's that going to be located?
Right on the Galloway campus, which is the main Stockton campus. And student tickets, regardless of what university you attend, will be free. Okay,
great. Well, I would encourage everyone to follow Rob on LinkedIn and Twitter. And again, just to reiterate, I'd love to have you back on, and maybe I'll see you out there on November 1st.
Fantastic. Thank you for such a good, broad-ranging conversation. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you. I appreciate, again, you taking the time, and we'll be in touch. Thanks again. Rob Mejia, Stockton University, adjunct professor, cannabis studies.
We hope you've enjoyed this series. Don't forget to subscribe, because before you know it, we'll be back with another great conversation. If you're interested in starting a podcast, visit the contact page at njcriminalpodcast.com and send Meg a message. She'd love to discuss your legal podcast, and her producer has experience with podcast launches for businesses of all types. Always a fun conversation. Don't hesitate to reach out and see if podcasting is a good fit for you.